Ron, if you could wave your wand and change one thing about the Portland police, what would it be?
Well, I think, Mark, it has to be more than the Portland police, and this is my concern. Is rightfully so. There's a lot of attention that's focused on police reform. That should happen. But if you reformed every police department in this country, it would have literally no impact upon the day-to-day life of most Black citizens. It will not impact the educational system. It will not impact housing or lack of. It will not impact employment. It will not impact healthcare and healthcare disparities. So I think and I hope that the people who are marching, that they quickly begin to expand the areas that they focus on. And it's interesting to me that Congress could very quickly, at least the House, and now the Republicans are at least talking about laws, legislation that will impact police reform. Here we are in 2020, neither the House nor the Senate has come up with a bill for national child care standards. There aren't you have standards on the curtains in your house regarding the material they have to be made of, hopefully to keep them from catching on fire. We have standards for cars. We have standards for gas. We have standards for everything except what's supposed to be most precious in our lives, children. There are no national standards for child care and the way in which children are cared for, millions of children on a daily basis. So it's just interesting to me that, yes, because of all the attention that citizens have focused on police reform, Congress is able to act quickly. When the economy was in free fall, Congress would react quickly. But when it comes to something as we think as important as how we care for children, no action. And this has come up in front of Congress since the 1970s as something should be done to protect children who are in child care. No action. So unless people, I guess, get baby strollers and run through the streets of America and throw dirty diapers and bottles through windows, and maybe something will be done. But in some respects, to me, I don't want to use the word hypocrisy, but it certainly is short-sighted.
But Ron, don't you get a sense that at least part of the conversation is pivoting off of just police reform to talk about these larger issues?
I haven't seen it yet, not in any focused way. I have not seen that. It's almost tangential. And I'm afraid that Congress will pass something and basically wipe their hands of this matter. But if they're serious about institutional reform that will have a positive impact on the Black community, they're going to have to go a lot further than the chokehold.
So Ron, let's talk about other issues than police reform for a second. You were very critical of the state and the governor for not providing the Black community with testing for COVID.
Not just testing, Mark. When the virus began to spread, one of the first things that was stated, there are certain citizens in this country who are more vulnerable. The elderly, Black communities, brown communities, specifically, that they are more vulnerable. When it spread through the United States, and we saw this play out, we saw bodies stacked up in trucks like cardwood outside of facilities in New York, Chicago. The statistics just jumped out. 75, 60% of the deaths are Black and brown people. You would, at least I would have thought, that any public official, especially anybody responsible for healthcare, would have said, it's coming to Oregon. It's already imploded in Washington. What are we going to do to protect the most vulnerable? Nothing. And it took Black leadership in Portland to bring this to the attention of the governor, the mayor, the woman who's head of Multnomah County, the chair of the county commission, and the Oregon Health Authority. And the Oregon Health Authority did not do anything until we began to put pressure. And now, yes, we were very successful in pushing for testing in the Black community and for people who have symptoms and don't have symptoms. Up to that point in time, they said, well, if you have symptoms, go to a hospital. That was their response. So at long last, now they have a draft plan. Long last, they've changed the guidelines for who gets tested. And now they say that vulnerable populations, Black, brown, elderly, symptom and no symptom, can get tested. Here we are. This is June, Mark. Think of the lives that are lost and have been impacted since January, February. Okay, they said, well, we weren't too sure. We closed down the damn state in March. So that's what I mean. All the police reform in the world would not impact that. And I tell people, I said, if you want to get a good idea of how valuable Black lives are in Oregon, look at how all of these officials responded to a life and death situation. This is not getting chickenpox, life and death virus, and look at the response of the state.
So a somewhat delicate question, particularly for a white journalist to ask you, but the whole issue of police misconduct or their unwillingness to be monitored or controlled by citizens is often cast in racial terms. Mm-hmm. And yet, without a doubt, the most powerful police officer in the city in the last 30 years more recent than that, has been the head of the police union, Darrell Turner, who is African-American. Mm-hmm. And in many respects, the Portland Police Union has been the single biggest obstacle to reform.
Well, I don't think that's much different than any other union. Unions are set up to protect their members. So I don't view the police union as acting any differently than any other union in the history of the world. So that doesn't surprise me at all. The surprising part is how slow legislative bodies, city council, Multnomah County Commission, governor's office, state legislature, how slow they've been to address it, because they certainly could have addressed this. So I don't think, for me, the police union is the problem, because they act like any other union. Darrell Turner responds the way that any other union leader responds, protect primarily my members. So that's not surprising to me.
I would be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity to offer your thoughts about Portland media, most of which is obviously white owned and white run.
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember, Mark, being on a panel. I think it was at Concordia about 2 or 3 years ago, and it focused on race. And someone asked a question about this very question, well, a similar question about race in the white community. My response was this. I said, look, most white people, when they wake up in the morning, they're not thinking about race. They're thinking about raising kids, getting a job, paying a mortgage, and paying a car note. Now, if you believe that out of the top 10 thoughts on their mind, race is one of them, you're delusional. And I think the same thing. The media, when it decides what's going to be the story, when the assignment editor talks about what we're going to cover today, race is not at the top of the list. And we could argue it should or shouldn't be, but it is not. And it's only when you have moments like this that I began to get the phone calls. I said, damn, I've been here for quite some time, but now I get the phone calls. And some people even get a bit irate if I don't call them back quickly. So I understand, but they have not focused on these issues revolving around race. Should they? I would think so. If you're really concerned about what human beings are going through, and those certainly who have been marginalized, I would think so, but it does not happen.